Tonight, roads flooded, homes inundated, roofs collapsed. Port Augusta cops an intense weather system as the clean-up slowly begins. Our reporters are on the scene. And are you okay? The simple question you can ask, which might just save a life.
From our 7 Spencer Gulf Studios, your nightly news with Madeline Kerr begins now.
Good evening, thanks for joining us. Port Augusta is cleaning up after last night's devastating storm swept across the city. Properties left damaged by the flash flooding, with roofs caving in and homes and businesses left underwater. Reporter Daniel Pizarro begins our coverage from the scene in Port Augusta. Daniel?
Maddie, the SES has responded to over 110 calls for help after yesterday's storm roared into town. The sheer force of rain and hail has been described as unimaginable by locals, who are now left to pick up the pieces. It was a storm like no other. Torrential rain, hail, thunder and lightning cascaded onto Port Augusta just before 4 p.m. on Wednesday. The local cinema out of action after a waterfall of rain poured in and damaged the screen. But owner Michelle Coles says she's one of the lucky ones.
Look, I feel lucky. My roof hasn't caved in like everybody else's has. There's so many people who've got so much damage here in Port Augusta. It's just, I know the town will pull together and I know that we're okay, so that's the most important thing.
Over in Port Augusta West, the Hawks Footy Club saw its roof cave in, as did the roof at Woolies.
Unfortunately, when you get water to that extent, the hail in the gutters, it's just unfortunate that these things happen at times.
The damage to the club, at least $20,000. The Augusta Highway was temporarily closed to all after water poured onto the road, cutting off a vital transportation route and leaving many locals stranded on either side. Caitlin Gilby-French was sitting on her sofa when the roof fell on her.
I seen a crack forming and I just looked down and I said, I think the ceiling's going to fall, and I went to go get out of the way and it just all came down on top of me.
Port Augusta and up to Stirling North all received a fair amount of work or requests for assistance. That's across flooding, through roof or hail damage, so quite widespread.
Meanwhile, the City Mayor spent the day surveying the damage.
Council itself, the Council Chambers building was closed and still has about 30% of that building closed for inspection.
The Mayor confirming there was a fault with one of the pumps at Central Oval.
Guarantee you the pumps that were operational. We did have an issue or a fault with one pump, but it didn't fail, and we'll work through why that occurred.
The damage expected to be in the millions of dollars. Maddie, yesterday's downpour saw just shy of 40 millimetres fall on the city. 20 millimetres fell in just 20 minutes. This comes 7 months after an astonishing 59 millimetres of rain fell on Port Augusta back in February. Maddie, back to you.
Daniel Pizarro there. Moving further down the Gulf now, Whyalla and Port Pirie were lucky to narrowly avoid the worst of the storm cell as it passed over. And despite this, locals still had a hard time keeping the water out of their homes. Edward McCarroll has more.
With the region struck by torrential rain last night, Whyalla locals have woke to a raft of mud and fallen tree branches this morning as the City Council races to clean it up. Luckily avoiding the hail that lashed Port Augusta, many Whyalla residents were still left cleaning up this morning from waves of water that flowed under their doors. Whyalla, Port Pirie and Port Augusta all victim to a similar problem, with residents reporting that passing cars were pushing channels of water into their properties. With last night's burst of rain submerging the roads in water, cars continuing to travel at speed, easily displacing the water in their way. With potentially more rain this evening, motorists are advised to be cautious.
Given that a lot of it is falling over currently saturated and already flooded areas, we are expecting to see renewed river rises and potentially prolonging of existing floodings.
The SES advising drivers to slow down in sudden bursts of rain out of consideration for others, and because water over roads hides potholes and other obstructions.
Edward McCarroll there. Meantime, the same weather system impacted the far west last night, where our reporter Joshua Mercer is based.
The sun might be shining now, but Broken Hill copped quite the downpour last night, with a number of roads being closed. Last night in the Silver City, just under 40 millimetres of rain fell. The last time that we had seen that type of rain was back in April. After copping 11 millimetres of rain, Silverton Creek was flowing this morning, and by the afternoon there was still water around. But the road has since opened up. There were some call-outs by the SES last night, but residents have been prepared after the other weather events and have gone to the sandbagging station at Memorial Oval. This year, the Silver City copped its usual annual rainfall in the first half of the year. Broken Hill City Council has been after a Doppler radar, a specialised piece of equipment which uses radio waves to produce data about objects from a distance. But council keeps running into roadblocks when it comes to getting one on the ground. The closest Doppler radar is in Mildura, over 3 hours away. In case of wild weather in your area, be sure to check the SES website for updates.
And we'll have more weather a little bit later in the bulletin. But looking at today's other news now, and today is a special day on the calendar where we're asked to check in on one another's mental health, encouraging conversations. Today is Are You OK Day, with many support groups around the region gathering, spreading the message.
It's okay not to be okay. Port Lincoln locals gathered for Are You OK Day in hopes to spread positivity and open doors for harder conversations.
I think it's important to come together, just open the conversations that sometimes people don't have throughout the year. Normalise those conversations, that it is okay to not be okay at times.
Are You OK is a harm prevention charity that encourages people to stay connected with one another. With the global pandemic disrupting people's lives, there is no better time to check in on those closest to you.
And I think that Are You OK Day is really about check in with yourself. You have to be okay first, and then you can help someone else.
Sadly, 8 people take their lives every day in Australia. Are You OK contributes to suicide prevention, urging people to take time for their personal relationships.
I love it when people come in and say, hey fella, I'm struggling a little bit. You know, that's normal. I struggle at times. I've got a few good mates that will just out of the blue message me and say, hey Tone, not feeling too good at the moment. We'll get on the phone and have a yarn.
Lingering effects of COVID still affecting the mental health of the younger generation, making it hard for them to adapt to changing circumstances.
Many kids who, on the other hand, loves being social were really struggling being at home, lots more depression. But I think what we're seeing now is many kids struggling to get back to school.
Henry Millick, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Meantime, in Whyalla, a pop-up stall filled with friendly faces was set up at Westland Shopping Centre to celebrate the day. Staff lending an ear to have a chat with locals and giving out plenty of tea and free snacks to the community. And if you or someone you know is struggling with mental health, you can reach out to Lifeline on 13 11 14. Still to come tonight, local kids learning the importance of sustainability by using their own hands. And the pop-up art trail coming to the Flinders Ranges. Welcome back. Today, the Whyalla City Council and KeySab Environmental Solutions teamed up to introduce local students to a new world of single-use plastic alternatives. As part of a series of community sessions, today Whyalla Secondary College students were able to go hands-on with products that are fun and help the planet at the same time.
Students from Whyalla have been busy bees today, learning about sustainability.
So today we've been making beeswax wraps with some of the Year 9 and 10 students at the Whyalla Secondary College.
They've had the opportunity to design their own, make it their own personal design, and then they've gone, made it and folded it. So it's been a really good opportunity for our students to do something they've never done before.
Beeswax wraps are a modern, eco-friendly substitute for plastic food storage containers and bags. Made from natural materials, the wraps can be reused for months and are biodegradable when they reach the end of their life cycle.
Lots of valuable materials end up in the landfill due to less awareness. So we need to improve knowledge and the understanding about the recycling.
They've all got a product they can take home today, they can show to their families, they can use instead of using plastic products.
The session also shining a light on the correct way to dispose of different materials. The City Council is excited to partner with KeySab, not only teaching students but the whole community, with 3 upcoming events open to the public.
We're able to reach all sorts of diverse groups through this program, so school groups from kindergarten through to high school, but also older residents and adults in the community too.
Having the opportunity to have someone come in from outside the school and give the students the real life connection between what they're doing in school and then what they could be doing outside of school and the opportunities that there are is really important for our students here.
Edward McCarroll, 7 Spencer Golf News.
From Friday, the Flinders Rangers is hosting the month-long 19th annual A Brush with Art event. It's a pop-up trail showcasing the talent within the region.
Spring has sprung in the Flinders Ranges, making it the perfect time to immerse yourself in local art and spectacular sights.
Art in regional towns is really important, not only for a cultural development point of view, but it's also really integral to our tourism opportunities that it provides.
What was once a school is now home to artist Mark Zed's art studio in Werabra Forest.
My great-grandmother grew up here and I've been coming here since I was a child.
Mark's exhibition includes a different take on photography, using techniques which don't require a camera.
So I've created a series of photograms using a light-sensitive dye that's placed in the sun. So wherever I place down vegetation, the print stays white. Wherever the sun hits, it creates a beautiful Prussian blue.
Mark says his printed cushions have been particularly popular and will be hosting workshops to create your own print on the 18th of September, with bookings essential through Eventbrite. Annabelle Francis, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Stay with us. After the break, a special birthday surprise for a long-term Broken Hill local. And dust off the stilettos, Broken Hill Festival has officially kicked off. Welcome back. It's an event the athletes look forward to and train for each year. This year, John Pirie Secondary School hosted the Basketball Carnival for students with learning disabilities.
It was ballers galore today at the Port Pirie Basketball Stadium, as schools throughout the region joined for some friendly competition, learning more than just skills.
Skills and relationships with friends and such, meeting new friends.
Students travelled from Port Augusta, Kadina and Clare for a full day of basketball with a strong emphasis on inclusion for all.
It's more than just a carnival. It's about an experience that many of us take for granted.
Now in its 8th year, organisers and students say they have fond memories of the event, with one student participating in their 5th and final carnival.
I just can't believe that this is my last year and I'm leaving. This is an emotional day for me.
This is one of the only carnivals that is inclusion-based, not ability, giving students the opportunity to represent their school. The fun will continue tonight with a barbecue and disco. Annabelle Francis, 7 Spencer Golf News.
The YMCA celebrated the birthday of one of their regular Aquafit participants today. The organisation put on a morning tea for Heather Merritt, who's celebrating her 99th birthday.
Every Tuesday and Thursday morning, you will find Heather Merritt in the hydrotherapy pool doing Aquafit. Today was no regular session, staff surprising her by celebrating her 99th birthday.
I'm absolutely flabbergasted that I've been treated so beautifully. Now, that sounds wrong. I'm very honoured that I've been treated so kindly.
Over the 10 years that Heather has been doing Aquafit, she has made some great friends, including Lorna.
I have, especially this little lady, Lorna. She's an inspiration to me, and all the other girls and boys.
Staff look forward to seeing Heather every time she attends a class, proving she too is an inspiration to those who also take the class.
Oh, it's absolutely fantastic and inspirational to have Heather come. She's 99 and it's just proof that the more you come, the longer you live in the water as well. Water's magic.
Her fellow Aquafit attendees love having Heather around.
Just to say that everybody has always made me very welcome and any advice I ask for I get.
As for Heather's advice for those in their older years, Exercise is what keeps her young.
Well, always taken advantage of exercise at any time because the more you move, the longer you live.
Joshua Mercer, 7 Spencer Golf News.
What a lovely story. Happy birthday, Heather. And desert, disco and plenty of divas, darling. That's what Broken Hill Festival is promising as it kicks off tonight. The 3-day event celebrates the theatrical anniversary of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, at her spiritual home, the Palace Hotel, and Broken Hill as a whole. There's plenty of free events to enjoy, including the much anticipated street parade on Saturday along the main drag. Stay with us after the break. Fish tips from across the region. And we'll have more weather details with Alex Sykes. Welcome back. Well, it might not be the ideal fishing conditions at the moment, but bad weather doesn't deter keen anglers with a rod at the ready. Here's this week's Fish and Tips.
G'day and welcome to Fishing Tips in Port Lincoln. Well, the whiting reports have been really good down the passage with plenty of fish from Carcass, McLaren's and down at Taylor's. Some really nice fish amongst them as well. Whiting news inside the bay has been a lot slower. Fish are still pretty patchy and a little bit fickle, but hopefully they do come online soon. Out wide of Williams Island, down south of the passage, there have been some nice nanagai and some nice school sharks caught down that way. Over at Coffin Bay, the whiting have been pretty slow within the bay with mainly small fish. There are some salmon trout within the bay systems, and there's also some good sized squid out through the farm beach grounds as well. Down on Gunya Beach, the salmon reports have been really good with quite a few fish around that 3 kilo mark. And more salmon news from up the western side with Talia Beach having some nice sized salmon and also some gummy sharks at night. Well, that's all for tips this week. We'll see you again next week.
G'day and welcome to this week's Fishing Tips from Port Augusta, Drilla North. Well, that huge big downpour last night caused a bit of damage, but hopefully it'll stir the fish up as well. Try up around the top of the creeks and that for silver whiting, salmon and Tommy Ruffs. King George whiting, they still can be found, but not in great numbers. There's been no reports of squid. The odd kingfish is getting caught as well, and the crabs are there. You just have to wait a little bit longer. That's all we have from the Drilla North.
Hi, well, as fishing tips this weekend, we have some great weather for fishing coming and also some nice fresh tide, so definitely the time to get amongst it. For the land-based fishing, Point Lowly has definitely been the key for some really nice sized salmon. Just off the point of the lighthouse, there's been some nice schools holding up there. A little bit further down towards the Point Lowly sandhills, there's been some nice squid coming off the rocks, and over towards Becky Point, some nice salmon schools holding up there. For the boat anglers, still a fair few King George whiting coming in from the Cowlards landing grounds, a few squid out front of Mount Young, and also some nice King George whiting out around the shoals.
King George whiting across the shoals. I'll try and remember that. But it's time now to take a look at what's happening in the weather with Alex Sykes. Alex, as we saw earlier, truly some phenomenal weather we're seeing.
Thanks, Maddie. Yes, it's been a whirlwind 24 hours. Port Augusta did stay dry during the afternoon, but other Spencer Gulf cities had their turn to get wet. In Port Lincoln, the city recorded about 9 millimetres overnight before another 9 millimetres fell throughout the afternoon. Snowtown had some impressive rainfall overnight as well, 18.4 millimetres in the gauges. Looking at today's temperatures now, Broken Hill reached 18 degrees, partly cloudy conditions. A few showers and rainy in Kadina, 16, a bit breezy in Coober Pedy, 19 degrees. Looking more broadly at today's weather map now, 19 degrees in the Opal capital, Woodner and Whyalla today, 17 in Port Pirie and Port Lincoln. Port Augusta reached 20 degrees just before 4 p.m. this afternoon, 10 degrees warmer than the overnight low. Taking a look at the satellite image now, complex low pressure system over the far south of the state over the next couple of days to be centred near Tasmania on Saturday morning. A ridge of high pressure will move over the far west later tomorrow and then move slowly westerly eastwards over the weekend and early next week. Moving on to tomorrow's weather outlook now, and we'll start with the Gulf waters. West to southwesterly winds 20 to 30 knots, seas between 1 and 2.5 metres. South to southwesterly swell 1 to 2 metres. Showers in Port Lincoln tomorrow between 9 and 16 degrees. Same goes for Cleve, 16. Woodna a shower or 2 and set to reach a high of 17 degrees there. Possible showers in Whyalla, 19. A shower or 2 in Port Augusta tomorrow, but nothing like we saw last night, between 11 and 20 degrees there. Showers easing around Kadina, 16. Showers easing around Port Pirie as well, 17. Showers around Clare on Friday, between 9 and 13 degrees. And Broken Hill might have an early shower before turning into a partly cloudy day with maximum temps of 18 degrees there. Taking a look further through the week now, Port Pirie can expect some rain on Saturday. Not much though, 17 degrees. Partly cloudy just about everywhere else. Temperatures will vary by only 5 degrees between 16 and 21. Broken Hill be mostly sunny and 18, which is good news for everyone planning on heading to the main drag in drag event as part of the Broken Hill Festival. Moving on to Sunday's outlook now, possible showers around Port Lincoln, 16 degrees. 16 in Kadina as well. Bit warmer the further north you go, 17 in Whyalla, 18 in Port Pirie, 20 degrees in Port Augusta. And finally, taking our first look at Monday's forecast, partly cloudy, 23 in Coober Pedy, 21 in Port Augusta, drizzly around Port Lincoln and Adelaide, heading for a top of 15 degrees. And that's all the weather from me for tonight, Maddie. I'll see you soon with an update. It's back to you.
Thanks for that, Alex. And that's the local news this Thursday. I'm Madeline Kerr. Thanks for joining us. Stay safe and good night.